Good day, everyone. And once again, we're back together. And this time we'll be looking at solving equations by squaring both sides. If you haven't subscribed, please just make sure you're part of the family. And of course, you can reach us on all our social media platforms. Of course, on Instagram at underscore Mlungisi Nkosi, on Facebook, Mlungisi Nkosi ZA, on TikTok as well at underscore Mlungisi Nkosi. And of course, you can get us on our website as well, mlungisinkosi.co.za. Right, so I want us to delve right into the lesson. And as we're going to start with the lesson, I want you to please remember that we've already had 5 other lessons on solving quadratic equations. So if you haven't watched them, please make sure that you do so right now before you start with this one. Now, we're looking at solving for x by squaring both sides. So this is when we've got a third. So let's take an example. Say for argument's sake, we've got x plus 5, or rather x plus 6 minus x is equal to 0. Now, we can see that we've got a square root in the equation. So what are we going to do? Well, the first thing that we do is you always try to isolate the square root. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is everything that is not under the square root, I take it to the other side. So I've got x plus 6, which is equal to x. So I'm taking this to the other side, it changes sign, it becomes x. So now, what am I going to do? I'm going to actually square both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to say, well, to remove the square root, I am actually going to square on both sides. Okay, now if I may, if you'll allow me, let me just actually use a different color here, so that because later on what we're going to do is we're going to try and just see if we can test our solution, right? So what I want us to do is just take a different color. Say, let's make that red. Okay, so we are squaring it there. So we are squaring over there. All right, now in this case, we see that we've introduced something that was not there. So when I square on the one side, I need to square on the other side, right? So now solving, okay, I'm just trying to pick it, my color there, right? Going back to black. Right, so in this case, what do I have? Of course, the square root would cancel the square, right? So what do I have? Well, I've got x plus 6 over here. And on the other hand, I've got x squared, right? Now, what I can do in this case is just take everything to the other side. So I've got x squared minus x, all right? Minus 6, of course, it changes sign. And this is equal to 0, okay? So now, by the way, there's nothing wrong if you had the 0 on the left-hand side. It's all the same thing. Right, so now I'm going to actually, open my brackets. That's why I said you should have watched the other lessons. So we're going to factorize. If you haven't watched our lesson on factorization, please do yourself a favor and do so. Of course, factors of 6, such that when I subtract them, I get 1. So that would be 3 and 2, because 3 times 2 gives us 6, but 3 minus 2 would give us 1. Of course, the bigger product takes the sign of the bigger number, so it means that our signs are not the same. And in this case, it means that would be negative, that would be positive. So now we've got 2 roots, or we've got 2 solutions, which is x is equal to 3 or x is equal to negative 2. Now, this is the part where you need to be careful, right? So you're going to take each solution in this case and actually test it against where we substituted for x to see whether the left-hand side would be equal to right-hand side. Okay, what do I mean by that? I'm going to take the solution and I'm going to say, okay, so for our solution, okay, I'm just trying to take a pen there, right? So for our solution, we've got x plus 6. You remember it was under the square root. We had x plus 6 giving us, in this case, x, right? So let's substitute that value x is equal to 3. So if I take square root of 3 plus 6, right, do I have left hand side equal to right hand side? So 3 plus 6, that would give me 9. So the square root, and by the way, note it's a positive square root, okay? So in this case, I should get a positive answer. So do you agree with me? Positive square root 9 would actually be equal to positive 3. So left hand side is equal to right hand side. Now, why is that important? Because it means that this is definitely a valid solution, right? Now let's do the same with x is equal to negative 2. So going to say once again, I'm going to substitute negative 2 into this x plus 6 equal to x. Let's do so. So this is going to be negative 2 plus 6, okay, is equal to x is negative 2. So in this case, we've got negative 2 plus 6, which will give us 4. So the square root of 4 in this case will give us. All right, now I want you to note, we've got a positive square root, but on the other side, we've got a negative number. So what does that mean? It simply means that it means x is equal to 2 is not a solution. So in this case, this one is not applicable. Okay, so please note in this case, there's only one solution here, which is x is equal to 3. Why? Because a positive square root cannot give us a negative answer. Okay, right, please remember we didn't have plus or minus there, so in that case we were only given the positive square root giving us an answer. So it means that the other equation, or rather the other solution, is invalid, right? So now let's take another one. Okay, so let's move on, taking number 2, right? So suppose we've got 2 into x minus 3, okay, plus 3 equal to x. Right, so what did we say we're going to do first? We're going to isolate everything that does not have a square root in it, or that is not under the square root. So in this case, I've got 2 into x minus 3, which is equal to x minus 3, right? Now, what are we going to do? We're going to square everything, and you need to be very careful. This is the square root in here. By the way, you could have divided by 2, but it will kind of give you fractions, and so that will complicate everything. So I'm just going to keep that coefficient of 2 there. And instead, okay, I want to use a different color. I want to square both sides. Okay. You need to be very careful here. Once you square both sides, remember that, and I'm just saying this, that if you've got, or rather, let me just use other variables, a plus b squared, please keep in mind this is not equal to a squared plus b squared. That is not true, right? Obviously, what we'd need to do is just expand our bracket and use our FOIL method in that case. So please just be careful of that, right? Now, what happens here? We've got 2 squared, okay? So going back there, okay, so we're going to have 2 squared, which is 4, right? But we've got square root of x minus 3 squared. Remember that will give us x minus 3. The square root goes away, right? Which is equal to, now, let's say an easier way that you can do this for yourself. You'll have x times x, which is x squared. You'll take the square of that, so that would be plus 9, right? But now how do you get the middle term? You say this multiplied by that multiplied by 2. Okay, so the 2, you actually use it as multiplication and not squaring this time. So that will be minus 6x. You can do that, okay? Of course, you could have expanded this, x minus 3, okay? Of course, you've got x times x, which is x squared, x times negative 3, which is negative 3x, negative 3 times x, which is negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 3, which would be plus 9. And you'll see how this gives you minus 6x plus 9. Okay, right. So an easier way, as I said, you take that squared, there it is, x squared. You take that number squared, you write it at the end, okay? And it means that the middle term will be this multiplied by that multiplied by 2, okay? Right, so, all right. There it is. I've just erased something there. Okay, we're just taking it slowly. All right, now, okay, let me just remove all of this so that we're able to see what we're doing. So we've squared both sides, and now all we're simply doing is try to put our quadratic equation in standard form. So we've got x squared, okay? I was trying to write in black again. All right, so in this case, we've got, in fact, let me start on the left-hand side, right? So we've got 4x, right? And 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3 would give us negative 12, which is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 9. Now let's try and simplify this. Okay, so that would give me x squared. Okay, I'm taking these to the other side. So that would be negative 4. So that would be minus 6x minus 4x. That will give us minus 10x. Because we'd add them, they've got the same sign. We keep the sign. And in this case, you've got negative 12 plus, if we take the 12 to the other side, it becomes positive. So you've got 12 plus 9, which would give us 21. And all of this is equal to 0. Of course, ladies and gents, the point is not for you to make this into a passive study. But what you do is you're going to work with me. Once I get to the stage, stop the video or pause the video. Try to do it on your own and see if you get to the very same answer. Okay, so now we've got factors of 21 such that when I add them, give me 10. Okay, I already see those factors, that's 7 and 3. So this would be x and x, that would be 7 and 3. But remember, we said in this case, when this sign is positive, it tells us the sign inside the bracket are the same. So in this case, it means, by the way, it will be the sign of the middle term. Sorry about that. Okay, so that would be minus. So it means inside I've got two signs that are the same. That's negative and negative. So what does that say to us? It says we've got x is equal to 7 or x is equal to 3. But remember, what we now need to do is go back to that second step. And we are going to substitute, okay, without necessarily, without the squares. So I'm going to say, well, we've got 2 into x minus 3 equaling x minus 3, right? So let's say we've got 2 into square root. What is x minus 3? That would be 7 minus 3. This would equal to 7 minus 3. Let's see if it is so. So we've got 2 into 7 minus 3 is 4. So 2 square root 4 is equals to 7 minus 3. That would give us 4 as well, right? So 2 multiplied by square root of 4 is 2. And in this case, definitely left-hand side is equal to right-hand side. So it means that this is a plausible solution. It is definitely a solution. So now we're going to substitute x is equal to 3. So we're going to say that's going to be 3 minus 3, okay, which is equal to, on the other side, 3 minus 3. I'm sure you can see where that is going, right? So 3 minus 3 will give us 0 multiplied by, square root of 0 is 0 times 2. That would give us 0. And 3, actually I made a mistake on this side. This is supposed to be 3 minus 3. Yeah. So 0 is equal to 0, so definitely left hand side is equal to right hand side, and so it means that x is equal to 3 is also a solution. So therefore it means both solutions are valid. Okay, so in that case, that is how that cookie crumbles. Okay, right. There are instances, ladies and gents, which I want to take you into, where we find that we might actually need to square more than once. Okay, right. So in that case, I want to just quickly show you something. um, you know, there is a way of doing this, the very same question, by squaring both sides, but doing it differently. Let me just take you there. That's why I want to show you why you need to isolate as much as possible, right? So let's take again, we've got 2 into x minus 3, right? In that case, we were given x minus 3 is equal to, rather, x minus 3. Now, supposing that you decided to not solve it the way that we did at the top there, right? Yeah, actually, we had a plus 3 here, if I remember. So I wrote the adapted version. So plus 3 is equal to x. So what you could have done is to square both sides in this way, right? Now, the problem is that, ladies and gents, please remember that, as I said, a squared plus b squared, or rather, a plus b. Why do I keep making this mess? A plus b all squared is not equal to a squared plus b squared. Okay? So you need to be very, very careful of that. So in this case, we are going to use our FOIL method. What it actually means, because I want to show you this, is that you've got 2 into x minus 3 plus 3, and 2 into x minus 3 plus 3, right, which is equal to x squared. So now what do you do? Multiply that into that, so that gives you 4 into x minus 3. Remember, 2 times 2 will be 4. And then square root of x minus 3 multiplied by square root of x minus 3. I'm still going to teach this, right? When you multiply two square roots of the same thing, they will actually cancel out, right? It's the same as saying the square root of x minus 3 squared. Right, now you take this to multiplying by 3. So that will be 2 square root x minus 3 multiplied by 3. That will give us 6 into x minus 3, right? X minus 3, sorry. So that's x minus 3. And then, so this is when we take this multiplying by 3. And then I just want to change color. This multiplied by that would give us, so again, it's going to give us the very same thing, plus 6 into square root of x minus 3. Okay, and finally, we are taking that 3 multiplied by 3, and that would give us 9. Okay, all right, let me just keep to the same color. So now what do I have? Okay, so I'll have 4x minus 3. So again, 4x minus 12 plus. Now remember, in this case, I have multiplied 2 times the square root of x minus 3. So if I add those two, those will give me 12 into root x minus 3, right? Now please remember, this is the same as 6a plus 6a if square root of x minus 3 was a. So that will be equal to 12a. So in this case, it's not a, it's square root of x minus 3, right? Plus 9, please remember we said this is equal to x squared. So that's plus 9. Okay, so and I'm going to give you a question that you're going to do on your own in this case. So we're going to say, well, this is equal to x squared. So what you can do from here is try to isolate everything. So you've got 4x, you've got minus 12 plus 9, that would give you minus 3, right? Okay, plus 12 into root x minus 3. Please just be careful if in case I made a mistake, right? But now what do you notice? We can actually try and isolate again, right? So what you can do is you can actually square both sides. I feel like I've made an error. Please just make me aware if there's any place where I've made an error in this case. Now, what will happen is that you try to isolate. So we've got 12 into root of x minus 3, right? So I'm going to take everything else to the other side. Now I've got x squared minus 4x plus 3. Okay, right. Now you'll notice in this case, that you have to actually square again. All right, and this is the thing about squaring. When you square a bracket where you find that you've got a third and another number, so that is why, ladies and gents, I always advocate for, of course you can always try to work this out and work it through. I'm not going to do that, but I always advocate for isolating the square root and therefore finding the answer. Okay, right. So in this case, that would be the best way to do it. But before we call it a day, I just wanted to give you one question that you can try to do on your own. Okay, of course, we can even apply fractions here. So let's take, yeah, why not? So let's take 3x plus 1, okay, which is equal to 5 into 3x plus 1, okay, minus 4 is equal to 0. No, actually, yeah, there's the equal to sign there. Right, so this is your example. Please let me know how it goes. Tell me how you are going to solve that and what your final answer actually is. Ladies and gents, I want to leave this lesson here. Of course, we're going to pick these up. I'm still going to do examples for grade 11 on all of these sections just in one video. Okay, so for now, let's leave it here. All right, ladies and gents, please make sure that you follow us. Just make sure that you subscribe and you hit that notification bell. Otherwise, from me, your favorite uncle, I'll see you guys next time. Sharp, sharp.